Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our workshop session. And at this time, I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Adams.
Here.
Bartlett.
Here.
Cook.
Here.
Hopkins.
Here.
Lonigan. O'Donnell.
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Wankel. Here. Wormowski. Here. Williams. Here. Mayor Richard. City Attorney.
Here.
Here.
Just a reminder, if it's up to you, but I know that folks are watching this on the live stream, and if you want to announce your name before you talk so they know who's talking. I know it's kind of different to do, but I know that we've gotten some emails, and Alderman Wormowski reminded me a few minutes ago that people have reached out to him about just kind of letting people know that who's talking. So this is Mayor Andy Ezzard, and I welcome you all, and I will turn this over to City Attorney's Report, Mr. Dan Beard.
Thank you, Mayor. Two items on the agenda. There's a couple things I want to mention real quickly with you, having to deal with the Plans Commission and Inspections Department. Two different topics, but we've had some inquiries about placing storage containers on residential property. If you've seen this perhaps in other areas, you can get containers, basically offload off of a truck. You can fill it up, store stuff in there. In working with Brian Nyberg, our Superintendent of Inspections, the direction we're going with the Plans Commission is to talk with them. We don't want to restrict the pods, the types of containers that people will get, place in their driveway, fill them up as they move out of town or move them to a storage facility. But those are of a temporary nature, and we're looking at some restrictions on those about the length of time you can have them, that they have to be in the driveway, they can't just be sitting out in the yard. Beyond that, the direction we're suggesting to the Plans Commission to consider for storage containers is that's not something that we want in a residential neighborhood. And if you can picture a train boxcar or a trailer of a truck, those are the types of things that in other municipalities, they're moving in as accessory structures and leaving them there on a permanent basis. There can be occasions when that might be appropriate in a business zoned property or an industrial zone property. I don't think this has happened in Jacksonville, but I've read where in some cases, like prior to Christmas sales, someone may get a whole truckload full of inventory that they're going to store behind their facility, not out on the street. And as they sell off at their store, they would continue to use it. I don't think we necessarily have a problem with some restrictions on that in a business zone property, but our inclination is not to allow storage containers other than of a temporary nature, those big storage containers in a residential. Is that pretty much the way the council would feel too?
Wormowski, maybe you could just create some sort of permit system where they can have a start date and an end date. You can name the time that you want, and then some sort of nominal fee, just so there's a record of when it starts and when it ends, so that if it's there beyond like 3 months or 6 months or whatever you want to say, that it's not allowed anymore.
Are you talking about allowing that in a residential section?
In residential areas.
Okay, I can certainly put that to the Plans Commission. I've got some problems personally with that. I don't have a problem, again, with the temporary storage and pods and so forth, but putting one of those trailer-sized structures on a residential, even if it's in your backyard, I'm not sure how a neighbor would feel about that. And I can't imagine this happening in Jacksonville, but in other areas, those types of containers are then used as residential structures. And that's something obviously we don't want. But as far as one other consideration, we're not talking about a dumpster or something like that. If you're doing construction on your property, we already have rules in place where that is allowed. You put it on the street with proper reflective devices and so forth. But Steve, I'll pass that along, that you'd like to see the you'd like to see those big storage containers in a residential section with a permit process?
Well, I mean, the size is approximately like from me to you, you know.
No. I want to clarify that because you're talking semi-cargo
Semi-trailer
shipment
size.
trailers.
The pods I've seen are smaller, like if
Right.
it's a semi, so that way it could be part of the permit system where you could define the size. And then I've seen people where they move, or they're trying to move like an elderly resident to a nursing home or something like that, and it's a transition period where they need to move that.
That
So-
type of thing, the pods, we
Right.
were already considering using, probably with a permit system, just so we know when they're there. But we still would want, though, at least the research Brian and I have done, we would still prefer those are in a driveway, not just sitting out in a yard somewhere.
I
So-
agree with that. They should just be in the driveway. They should be placed, you don't want them in the front yards. You just don't want them right beside your neighbor's yard. And no, I don't support putting cargo trailers in your yard or up your driveway, because then they'll sit there and then they'll be containing, and people use them for storage for who knows what, and it'll just continue to be an eyesore. So,
So now, one thing is that I know Habitat for Humanity has a trailer that they use when they do construction in a house. What would you do in that
That-
situation for
Those
Habitat?
types of things are not what we're talking about. We're talking storage containers, not construction trailers and things like that, where you're having building materials or tools on site overnight.
Mhm.
That's not a problem.
Well, this is something they did for the duration of the home build.
That's,
Okay.
yeah, that's the
Right.
construction process.
You're talking about the ones that go through town on the trains, the big cargo, yeah.
the shipping trailers.
Yeah,
shipping
we-
containers.
we don't need those.
Right.
You'll certainly have a chance to take a look at this again, because whatever the Plans Commission comes up with is an amendment to the zoning ordinance will come back to you for final approval and for further input. And I'll let you know when it's coming to the Plans Commission, if you want to come in and have any additional input. Second is a different subject, but somewhat related. We are also starting to get inquiries about putting up metal pole buildings as residences. And what other communities have done is allowed that with restrictions, types of restrictions they may have. It has to face the street. It can't be sideways, so to speak. That at least a third to two-thirds of the frontage of the house would have to have a porch of some sort attached to it. That it has to have a pitched roof. It can't just be a flat building. And most of the restrictions we've seen include that you cannot just put up a metal pole building with metal siding on it, that if the exterior is gonna be metal, then it has to be like the lapped siding that you see that's decorative as opposed to flat sheet metal type. What's your thoughts on, I think that's something we can certainly work with, probably under a permit process as well, so we can keep track of what's going on there. But there's quite a bit of information on those that we're able to pull together, and I think make it so that they are an attractive use of a piece of property rather than detracting from what the neighborhood looks like.
So what do we do, this is where I'm asking, what do we do with prefab homes then?
They're typically not metal. We're talking a pole building, okay, not a prefab home. Typically, these pole buildings are erected and then they go in and refinish or finish them inside with the rooms and so forth.
Kind of like hole in the wall, or like
Like a Morton building,
addition onto
Yeah.
production press, like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Like
Again,
some-
we're talking residential use of those buildings, not commercial.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good to me.
Okay.
Doesn't look like a house.
Well,
I'll
I-
get you some pictures. A lot of them do look like a house, but you'll have a chance to. Yes, Alderman Adams.
You're just completely talking about siding, because there's a lot of homes that have the corrugated metal
Oh,
roofs.
sure, yes, no. We're talking the sides of the house, the pole building types of, Morton building is a typical example.
So we're allowing corrugated roofs, but not corrugated siding.
I don't think we've had any restrictions so far on metal roofs, because that's kind of a wave of the future.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
residential.
Yeah.
so I guess my question is, we don't have a lot of vacant land in Jacksonville, and some of the homes that are now being built in residential areas, I think, are most likely protected through homeowner associations. So I mean, have you had a request for one of
Yes,
these?
Yes, and I don't know where these are, but Brian indicates there's a couple of these in Jacksonville already. We'll get some more information to you on that, but it was our impression it's not something you would ban completely, but rather put restrictions on it so they don't detract from the neighborhood. Okay. Anything else on that? And if not, then I'll get back to the two items I have on the agenda. First is discuss amending the liquor ordinance. This is to add a liquor license. Shiraz is going to be reopening with a liquor license, a restaurant license for liquor, beer, and wine. And we'll have that on the agenda for first reading, adding that one. Next, we have a discuss addendum to the memorandum agreement with Jacksonville Senior Chaplaincy Care, Inc. This involves the fairly sizable area out at Diamond Grove Cemetery that National Benevolent Association has title to, that have 200 and some spaces there. National Benevolent Association is going to deed that property to the Senior Chaplaincy Corps in Jacksonville, and they are willing to give most of those spaces back to the city. Doug Moore from the cemetery is here, previously served on the cemetery board as president, and now is taking over as superintendent of the cemetery. This has been in the works for quite a while, and we previously had an agreement that we would work this out and take these lots back, and upon condition that we would maintain all of them and that we would set aside a certain number of these for indigent burials. The only thing the addendum does is bring the numbers up to date as far as the number of spaces that we're going to have, number of spaces that Senior Chaplaincy is going to have, and then there'll also be a small area for infant burials from the hospital, that type of thing. So really, all we're doing is updating the previous agreement that we had, and then can go forward with acquiring. The city will get 130 some lots. Senior Chaplaincy will retain about 88. So it's a pretty good workout. And all that we are giving up, so to speak, is we are agreeing that for these indigent burials, working through the funeral homes, we will open the graves without any charge to anyone, because again, they're indigent burials, there's no money to pay for this. It works out better for us that way, and we will then be also responsible for maintaining that area, which we've been maintaining all along anyway. Doug, is there anything else that you want to add to that?
No, I think you explained it thoroughly.
All right. Any questions on that? I'm sorry.
No, if there's any questions.
Be happy to answer any questions if there are.
No, I think you explained it pretty well.
If not, that's all that I have tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. City Clerk's report.
I brought up to your attention the natural gas contract with Constellation, and made some contacts with Constellation, and I made a couple of other contacts that no longer do this sort of thing with gas. In speaking to Mr. Hedrick, who I've been working with for about 12 years now, he explained that they went on out for bid with 2 other companies that do this, and they were the low bidder once before. I've dealt with this man and given me information all the time, so I'm pretty confident in what he's saying, but he's recommending the 36 fixed rate month because of with the increase in demand and possible reduction of fracking from the new administration. The 100 swing or the 0 swing is your choice. If that made any sense to anybody, would you please let me know? Bottom line is that we're on a variable rate right now, and it goes up month to month depending upon prices, obviously. And by locking in the 36 month, we're locking in lower than what we are paying today. Now, that doesn't mean that, and we don't do a lot of gas. The one question I did ask of him, we do receive, because of a contract that we have with Ameren, we do receive some free therms for certain, up to a certain amount, and this will have no effect on those free therms that we get from Ameren at this time. So bottom line is that by going under contract, we'll get a low price right now while the natural gas prices are low, and lock it in so that we can save a little bit of money down the road. But again, it does not affect the free therms that we are receiving now. So with the council's permission, I'd like to go ahead and start the process with getting locked in with Constellation. We currently have a electric supply contract with them. They do that.
Okay.
So we've got that through 2023, I believe. And by going with the gas, then we'll have them both tied up. Okay. I do have a couple of other things. Currently, we have a DCEO grant with the state, and it's a $70,000 grant that we've basically been put on hold due to the COVID pandemic. A lot of things have been done with regard to this. It has to do with security for this building, and then also some outside entrance signs that we currently have one coming in from the east end, and we have one coming in from the south end. We do not have a sign coming in, a Jacksonville welcome sign coming in from the north side, nor do we have one coming in from the west side. So both of those things were put into the scope for the grant, and the security issues with the pandemic, we were able to get a lot of cures money that did an awful lot of, that we didn't have to pay for. In speaking with ESDA director, Phil has been in contact with Adam Mefford, a chief, and the security and things like that. So what we're going to do, we'd like to do, is we're going to meet and find out exactly what things we can still do under this grant. And by doing so, then I have to put in for an extension on the grant, because the grant ends in June of 21. So I've been working with them, and I can get extended to June of 22, which gives us plenty of time to get the work done that we need to get done. Again, it's a $70,000 grant. $50,000 was set aside for the security of the building, and $20,000 was set aside for the signs, which won't be anywhere near that. So we're working on both of those. But what I want to let the council know is that if we can, if you don't mind, we're going to extend that grant so that we got another year to use up those funds.
Find out how we can use them.
The only thing that I've had to do every single month is send them the same piece of paper saying that we're not doing anything this month. So it's no big deal, but we've got to get a new scope, and that's what the meeting is all about with the ESDA and the police department, to find out what we can do, and then we'll go forward with it. Any questions on that?
No, thank you.
And that's all.
Thank you, Skip. Committee reports tonight. Parks and Lakes, Alderman Lawrence Olmsted.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 4 items tonight, and we did have a Parks and Lakes Committee meeting earlier this week. And so a lot of the things that we'll be sharing tonight with the council is in regards to the meeting that we had Tuesday. The first item we have is discuss renewing private camping club contracts. And what we decided to do during that meeting is we want to leave the public or the private camping club contracts the same as they have been, and then to reevaluate it later this year, and to come up with some graduated increases in the future. But for the time being, for right now, we don't want to increase any prices. We want to leave them as they are for the coming year. And those contracts come up on March 31st. So that's why we're at this meeting and talking about it. So anybody have any questions for Brett regarding that? Okay, and we're going to skip 2 and go to 3, only because we're still talking about the lake. Discuss amending lake camping rules and regulations. Brett gave us a list of basically all the camping rules and regulations that we have adopted previously. At the end, he added in the scale of the prices, and he's going to put his contact information on there. And to my knowledge, those are really the only changes that were made in regards to what we have changed from the previous time we approved it. Would that be a true statement?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So no real changes. We just want to adopt the new rules, putting the fees or the fines, and putting his contact information. Those are the only changes that we made on the rules and regulations. And we'll go back to number 2, discuss waiving bids and accepting proposal for the replacement of community park restroom doors. So we might have Adam come forward, but it's my understanding that we have 2 doors at Community Park with the public restrooms that are coming off the walls, and it has to be replaced structurally, removing some of the masonry. And Adam, I'm just gonna turn it over to you, because you got a lot more language about it than I do, so.
Real fast, the doors we're talking about are the community park restroom doors. It's a public restroom, it's kind of a safety hazard to have those doors not be able to close and lock properly. So this is something that we're trying to get done. The building was built to last, and the doors were also built to last, but now they need to be replaced, and that's just part of dealing with a commercial building. You have a little more expensive doors than you go to Home Depot to get. So the cost for both doors is $8,975, and it was originally, we kind of guesstimated about $5,000 a door, and it came in just a little under that. So we're happy with it, but if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
And the concern is that if someone were to go in that door like a child, and the door would shut, that a child will not be able to get the door open because of such
Sometimes,
the
yeah,
hinges are. So it's really a safety issue for young people and those who may not be
We've
able to get the
band-aided
door
them
open.
a lot in the last few years, and they're just getting to the point where it's time to replace them. It's just a simple fact.
Those are all steel framed, aren't they?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
And Adam explained to us, for he and his guys, in order to shut the doors, they have to,
I'm a big guy, and I gotta put my shoulder into her to get her, to get her closed properly.
so,
So
so that,
That
that's what
is
that's
where we're at for the
regarding. And just so
doors.
that the rest of the council knows, we have a similar situation at Lake Jacksonville. And Brett will most likely bringing that to us at the next council meeting, because he was able to get his estimates in late today. So we'll be bringing that to the council soon too. But it's a safety issue and it needs to be addressed, so.
Yeah.
And then moving on to number 4, discuss the pavilion roof. Do you just want to jump in on that?
the old Nichols Park Pavilion, it gets brought up quite often. Greg Hillis is here from Benton. He's gonna be able to fill you in on some of the needs. But the bottom line is that roof is in dire need of repair. We've been trying to get it for the last few years, and it was actually approved last year, but we kind of held back with COVID. We didn't get that project going. So we're asking that we do that before we start having some foundation issues or structural issues. You got to have a solid roof to have a solid building, and right now we're starting to not have a solid roof. So if anybody has any questions for Greg or I, there is some pictures being passed around that Greg brought from 2010 when the city applied for a park grant to deal with the roof, and I don't believe they were not awarded funds. And then we've got some pictures from today, so you can kind of see where we're sitting at. But
It's deteriorated substantially since 2010 when we originally wrote the grant. We were able to do an upgrade to the bathroom and to the kitchenette. We've upgraded the air conditioning system and the floors. Unfortunately, the roof is next, and if we don't take care of the roof, then everything that we had previously invested in will be lost. It does come at an expenditure. We have an estimate on that, don't we, Greg?
Yes, we're estimating $85,000, that's including engineering and construction, yeah.
So that's what we're looking at for a dollar amount. And again, as Adam said, it was approved in the previous capital improvement budget, but because of COVID, we asked that we not move forward on that project, but it is something that we should look at very seriously and getting done in the very near future.
When you say look at it, it was approved, what happened to the funds then?
They go back to the general fund if we don't use them.
So were
We're
those,
gonna have a finance committee meeting to take a look at this project and a couple other projects to see whether or not we can come up with the funds or where we're gonna get the funds.
okay, all right.
And tonight, we're only asking for money to approve getting the 2 masonry doors replaced. So I assume after the finance committee figures out where the money is going to come from, we'll come back to the council to ask for your final approval on that. So, Brandon?
And I'd just like to add those 2 doors for the community park and the 2 doors from the lake are half of the doors that are needed. Those are just the ones that are important, so.
That's all I have tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Planning and Public Works, Alderman Scott.
We have one item, discuss amendments to the electrical code.
I don't know if you have much information on it, anybody else does. Excuse me. Electric Commission has met fairly recently and came up with some technical changes in the electric code having to do with GFCI interruptions or protections, various types of conduit, and the electrical wiring itself. So we'll have an ordinance, first reading of an ordinance, adding these to the electric code as previously adopted. If you have any more questions than that, our electrician may be able to address them, but if not, we can have someone here at the next meeting at second reading to address those. Okay. Thank you.
No, so good.
Thank you. Public Protection, Alderman Hopkins.
Yes, we have two on the agenda tonight. Number one being discuss body cameras and potential camera grant application for that. And number two, report regarding the new hires and the status of the police testing. Is Chief here? Yeah, he's hiding down there, okay. You ducking down on me, Adam. All right. We all know we have to have body cameras. You got money for it?
Well, that's what I was going to bring up tonight. And I have, the Illinois Camera Grant has been opened up. And in researching that grant, there's two potential problems with it. One, we're on the back burner till 2025, so any department that applies ahead of us will probably get first choice for that camera grant. Also, it's a reimbursable grant only, meaning we would have to front the money in hopes that we get reimbursed by meeting the deadlines of those. So I wanted to let you all know that it's my recommendation that we do not apply for it at this time, because we would not be able to meet that deadline in the first round of camera grants. And we would probably be denied because we're a 2025 stakeholder in the new police reform bill. So I wanted to let you know, if you saw anywhere in the media or being released that the camera grant is open, I wanted to share with you that the research we've done is telling us that we need to hold off on that for just a little bit longer. Now, if the council at some point decides that we would free up the money to go ahead and purchase those body cameras in the meantime, it could still be reimbursable down the road. But we don't want to go ahead and shoot for now, spend the money when we don't have a chance, most likely, to get it. So I just wanted to fill you in that my recommendation is to hold off at this time till the next round of the camera grant, since we're looking at 2025, and those departments that are ahead of us would more than likely be first choice to get reimbursed in that money. So we'd be taking a bit of a gamble to spend our money to hope to get reimbursed in this first round of grant money. So I just wanted to bring you up to speed on that, to say that I think we're sitting in the right spot on that, and that we hold off just a little bit longer. And two, as I promised the last time when I gave the presentation about asking the council to give us a little leeway in our hiring process, it paid off very well. We were able to get 4 more candidates into the police academy. They left today to go, so I have 6 total in the academy. We were able to accomplish that in a month and a half. That's pretty amazing. Our testing is finally complete, and I thought we were all squared away, and then we had another officer resign last week, so we have to find another academy for another officer. So that's where we're at with the process, and I just wanted to bring you up to speed before the camera grant news hit the media.
What academy are those?
They're at Macon, Illinois Academy. It's a new police academy. It's only been open for about 5 years. We heard good things about it, and we were able to get in. So I'm excited to see the kind of recruits that we get out of there.
Good.
Hey, Chief, remind us, money-wise on body cameras?
We're looking at about $75,000. That's one thing I wanted to bring up too, Mayor, is that in this reimbursed grant, it is for the camera only. It does not cover the charging stations, the docks. It does not charge any of the infrastructure, which we had previously planned for and placed that already in place when we did the car cameras, so we're good on that. But we're looking at about $75,000. Of that money, you're probably going to want to know how much would we get back? About $38,000 is where we would be getting reimbursed out of the $75,000 for the cameras themselves. The additional cost is all in the implementation, the training, the docks, just the different things that go along with it. The server we've already done, but we have also put in place, because of the FOIA responsibilities that we would be held to on that body camera, because it would be subject to FOIA, a mechanism of redaction for those. If we didn't build in a mechanism for redaction, we would end up having to probably hire another individual to go through. It takes 5 hours to redact 1 hour of video. But we were able to include it in the price. That we could bring that price down a little bit, but in that price is built-in facial recognition, and the system redacts the individuals that you want pulled out of there automatically. It's a setting on the computer, so it's a good piece of software to have. For a few extra dollars, it saves us having to hire a complete another employee to handle all that, or pay an outside entity to handle all that. So we could bring that price down a little, not a lot. That part's not reimbursable either, but we're looking at about $38,000 of reimbursement if we're able to get that grant.
Now, the cameras we have in the cars, the automobiles right at the moment, and then we go to the body cameras, is the server or the storage of that compatible? Will it be
Yes.
compatible with both?
When we bought the new patrol cameras for the squad cars 2 years ago, we were able to get into the capital improvement with the camera grant we got at that time to strengthen our infrastructure to be compatible to the body cameras. So we're ready to go that way. We don't have to rebuild our whole computer system.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Anything else?
Thank you, Chief. Okay, special studies, Alderman Wormowski.
Just a quick update. At the last meeting, Chief Mefford said that, talking about the raceway, that in September 2018, that there was a fine issued. So he went back and pulled out the police report, and everyone has a copy of that police report that shows the process they go through when the raceway runs over. And then I also have documentation about there was an actual ticket issued, and then the fine was paid. So the raceway went beyond their time in 2016, and the mayor and Chief Mefford said they were going to set up a system, and that system worked in 2018. I need to meet yet with Kenny Dobson and talk to the raceway. One suggestion from the public is I know that we want this race to go on because it has a big TV contract and it brings a lot of people to town, and I think this is something that should go on. But one person suggested that we create a special permit for this race. In the past, it didn't have a legal framework. It didn't have any definitions of any fines or times for this special event. So the suggestion from a member of the public was to create a special permit to create that legal framework, which would define the time that the raceway would end and then define the fining structure. Like I said the last meeting, when the city council updated the city code, and one of the goals with that update was to change some old language in the code. And apparently some of the language that got changed in that code was it used to be a fine of $200 to $500 like per race, or I don't know exactly what the fine was, but the fine was higher. When we approved the new code, the fine is only $100, or as low as $100. So I just think that that's not really an incentive in terms of a fine for them to make sure that they end on time. So just want to work with the community, get some input, and work with the raceway and see what would work with them. We'll have a meeting, a special studies meeting sometime in early April, and then we can bring this up at the 2 meetings in April and have something official in time for the race to go on. Any other questions or
Well, I
comments?
mean, I think there's, I think, Kenny, you wanna have a race in April, and we're gonna do this the same way we've always had, I believe. Yeah, please.
Melissa's gonna,
So, so the ordinance says that, we don't race, and I totally agree with this ordinance. We don't race on basically school nights. We don't race on weeknights during the months of, September through May. And we don't race on weeknights September through May. So there is a race that's only happened 3 times here. So like, I have no incentive to race on a school night. Like, it better be something big and important. This is a race we've had 3 times over the last 8 years. It brings a lot of people, it's the biggest race our kind of racetrack can have. In the past, what I'd done is I came to the council with pretty good reason why maybe on that one night the council might grant an exemption. And I would say something like, there are 2,000 people going to be here from
Colorado to Australia to California to just everybody. Be broadcast to tens of thousands of people at night, all about Jacksonville. To me, I come to the council and I say, is that a good enough reason to let me race one time? I didn't do it last year. We did do it the year before. One time, last time the race ended at 9:30. Okay, the same race ended at 9:30. It was on a school night. I'm asking for permission to do that again. And my position just simply is I should have to just come to the council and have a darn good reason why I want to do that. And that's where I come. Last time I didn't come because quite honestly, I didn't know with COVID, the current restrictions up through Thursday, I couldn't financially have this race. But with the governor's bridge to stage 5, I expect that by the time it gets here, certainly within the next couple of weeks, that we'll be able to have 60% capacity and that anyone with a vaccination will be exempt from capacity limits. It's the other part of the bridge to stage 5. So there's no question that I'm now suddenly, as of last Thursday, going to be able to put enough people in the grandstand following the governor's recommendations to a T, which we have done, one of the few places that have done that religiously for the past year, and put enough people in there to actually pay for the event. So with that being said, I come to the council again just simply to get permission to hold a race in basically a month. I would submit that how this is all coming about, suddenly needing all this public interaction and comment and new ordinances and all that seems, it is coincidental that we're like 3 weeks from an election on the ward surrounding the racetrack, but I'll let that pass. That can't be the reason. I won't suggest it's the reason. What I am suggesting also is, I don't know how this became an issue for the Special Studies Commission that's tasked with the town brook and recycling and special requirements of the city. To me, this is a matter of the Public Protection Committee. We're dealing with a nuisance, potential nuisance or nuisance violation. And if there's going to be any new regulation with regard to the racetrack, I'm fully here to participate in that. I think you'll probably find that my recommendations are stricter than probably what yours might be. I would suggest that if this is something the council wants to revisit, that we do it over time with facts. Because bad information usually results in bad legislation, right? Let's talk, let's take our time, let's do it right, not for me, but for the generations to come as a racetrack, a fairgrounds, and residents try to live together peacefully in the years to come. So sure, it's something we can look at. But all I'm saying is, can I have permission to race and ask Adam not to enforce the ordinance on April 29th? Yes.
You're satisfied with the way the ordinance is written right now?
Totally satisfied.
And you have no problem in coming to the council when you have these special events and asking for permission?
Yeah, and I personally view it as something I should do very, very, very infrequently. If I were to get one race a year on a weeknight or on a school night, heck yeah, I'm going to do it. Why not? Might not even be an important thing. Just let's do it because we can. Or if not me, maybe the next person, right? And then when we do it one night a week, now what I come and ask for one night a year, hey, can you give me one more? I got another important thing. So now we're up to 2. Now I'm getting you changed to 2. It's kind of like, gaming halls and stuff. We start off with 1 or 2, and next thing you know, we got 20. Let's just, the current ordinance would be just fine if it just said, I have to come get permission, which I'm doing anyway. So all I'm asking is basically to give me permission and tell Chief Mefford, don't enforce the ordinance that night. And with that, we can come revisit the racetrack and its relationship with the neighborhood at any point in time. Thank you.
Actually, I do have a question. So you said before your race ran to 9:30, and in the email you sent out, you said you'd be interested in going up to 10:30. So I just want to know, what time if you were to have the race that night, what time would you want to run to?
Well, last time we ran this event, it went pretty well. We didn't wreck a lot of cars. We didn't haul people to the hospital. We didn't tear down fences or things that can delay it. Our goal is to be over as quickly as possible. I would strongly disagree with the representation that was made here last week by Alderman Wormowski, that we can sell $100 worth of beer a minute, and that somehow encourages us to not try to be done on time. I can't sell $100 worth of beer a minute, can't sell $100 worth of beer in 5 minutes. I'm lucky to sell $100 worth of beer in an hour. Our food shuts down at intermission. There is not an incentive in the world that we have to run late financially. People are still getting paid the longer we go. People are getting grumpy. People travel an hour away or decide not to come back because we don't get them home at a good hour. Every incentive we have is to be done early. Why do I want to keep spending money when I already got their money at the gate?
So what time did you want to run the race to?
Well, okay, so we got done at 9:30 last time. If I have permission to run the race, I'll start paying fines after 10 if you want me to. Big fines, I don't care.
So you would like to run the race until?
But I can tell you this, I can't have people travel here from all across America and then stop the event because it gets to be 9:31.
Okay.
Just as kind of Chief Mefford indicated.
So you would like to ask permission to run the race till 10?
I would like to ask permission to run the race to completion. And if the police department determines that we aren't making a good faith effort to complete it, knowing that the last 2 times this event has been run, it was over by 9:30, assuming we don't have to transport 5 people to the hospital and wait on ambulances, we will be done at 9:30.
In 2016, you ran the race till past 11:30.
Not that race, I didn't.
It was in April.
Yeah, that race did not run until 11:30.
So you've run races until past 11.
According to you, I ran a race past 11 o'clock in 2016, one out of like 20, and then obviously nothing in 2017, or you would have been all over that. And now again in 2018 once, where I was given a fine. I see no reason why this race should not be completed by 10 o'clock.
So you want to run the race till 10 o'clock?
I want to run the race to completion, but I'm telling you, it can be done by 10 o'clock, and if it isn't, I'll pay a significant fine,
What would be the significant fine?
$1,000.
So you would like to ask permission to
I
run?
don't think that's necessary.
Hang on, I don't think it's,
That's
no.
not necessary to do.
Are these two different, Mr. Dobson, can I ask, are these two different races? 2016, this one that's being cited, as opposed to the one that's going to happen
What I'm
now?
having here are the World of Outlaw sprint cars. I think we ran them in 2012, 2015, 2019, I'm guessing a little bit here. And then, yeah, this year. It's an event we'd like to have every year, and in some years, I've been able to schedule it during the summer. I don't really have to worry about this. Last event actually was scheduled for a Friday night a year or 2 ago, which was beautiful. It rained out. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I take what I can get on that, because I do think it's a lot of people in our community like to go to. It's just one of those things we don't do too often around here.
I think Mr. Dobson has made a good faith effort every time he's wanted to have one of these special races by coming here and asking for permission. This is going to generate a lot of revenue for this community in a time that we really need it for our business people. I don't see any reason why we should not allow him tonight to have that race. Give him permission to do it.
Well, that's what I was bringing up, this suggestion for either looking at the ordinance to begin with, but then the suggestion was made to do a permit, that we have not just a go ahead and do the race, we trust you, just like Mr. Dobson said he would like to run it till 10, and he suggested a fine of $1,000. I mean, we could create a special permit that would allow that, so it would set the time ahead of time and also set the fine.
You're talking about one race a year.
I don't think we have the time.
I guess if I could just point out that this is going to be on a school night, this is in town, and when this race happens, since I have children in school, I hear about it from a lot of the parents that, why were the races? I had people contact me that night and the next day about why were the races going on. So I totally understand allowing this race to happen, but I would just like to set a time and a fine.
I think the $1,000 is a little, I don't agree with that. I mean, I understand he wants to get it over, and when you have an event like that, it's totally out of his control as far, if something happens that delays it. So if it gets over at 10:05, I don't want to see him get a fine. I think that's ridiculous. For what is coming to the town that night, the number of people from, almost, a very large number of people that come to this race are coming from out of town. They're all gonna spend money in this town.
So in the email that he sent previously, he suggested 10:30, and he said he could probably have it over by 10.
Then let it be 10:30.
I think what he's saying.
I
What I'm
live as
saying-
close to that
what I'm saying-
racetrack as
What
anybody
I'm saying
in
with
this
all due
room.
respect is whatever makes you happy, I'm willing to try.
No,
I'll do
I
whatever
want to
makes you
stop
happy.
with that, Mr. Dobbs, because what you've done, you're always in good faith. You don't make an effort to go out there and abuse this, okay? We're talking one event, and now we want to slap some superficial fine on it, okay? I've lived in that area over there. The racetracks were there prior to me living there. I accepted that. I know it's part of it now. I know you're saying a school night. One night out of every year, every 2 years, we're giving him special permission to have a race. I don't care if it runs till 11 or midnight, but he's making good faith to run it to the completion. Putting a time limit on it is just so you can put a fine on it. And that to me is very ridiculous. I don't really support that because he is helping the economy, he's helping the community. Again, it's gonna bring people in here. We've been talking about how we've been affected during COVID and how our economy is suffered. We have an individual here that's trying to help the community by doing this. Oh, but let's put a fine on him if he goes a little bit longer. Well, then every bar that should shut down at 11 o'clock at night should be fined. Are they? No. I support your race. I think it's okay, and I don't see where we have to put a fine on it for one time. If the community has a problem with that, they can come here, they can complain. I understand that they're gonna call their alderman and complain, but I don't see a big issue with this.
So what you're saying is you want the community to have an opportunity to talk about it, but then you don't want to talk about it next month? You don't want to set the
I
fine?
want to give him permission to have his race in April. I don't want to delay him from his planning.
There's no question of delay.
But Steve,
I can't sell a
guess
ticket
may-
until you tell me I can race.
Right, he
Yeah.
has to
What kind
proceed
of
with
good faith
this.
is that?
Well, and Steve,
I'm gonna sell you a ticket, but I don't have permission to hold the event?
Well,
Come on.
you knew what the ordinance was. I mean, you could have approached us in January.
Yeah, and I haven't sold a ticket to it yet,
Okay?
but he's been
waiting for permission.
he's been
Usually I
waiting
get this
also.
permission earlier.
And also, the governor just now passing this bridge. But the other thing is, I don't think that we should jeopardize the life and safety of individuals if there's a crash on the course, and then now we have to run late because someone has been injured, or we're trying to pull him off the field fast so that he doesn't get a fine at 5 o'clock. I mean, I don't think we're either all in or we're not. And I think it's pretty clear that everybody, for the most part, is all in, for there's a lot more good than there is bad in order to have this race.
Point of order. What do we need to do to give him permission tonight?
What we've done in the past is when he comes to us and asks for that, you just, by consensus, is this something that you're willing to do? And you can do that again if you are concerned that there's nothing in the ordinance to do that. That hasn't stopped us in the past. There's other ordinances that we will waive from time to time. I can always put together a very quick amendment that this requirement may be waived upon good cause shown upon application of that. But I don't know that you want to delay until even the next meeting with an emergency clause.
No, I want to get it done and over with tonight.
I agree. Let's see what the consensus is.
All I can do is say, is the consensus to go forward with that? And if so, then I would have that at the next meeting. Because again, you can't take any action at a workshop session.
Right, it has to be put on the council.
Just at the council meeting, and if there's a concern that it wasn't on the agenda, we can always back it up and say it again at the next meeting, but you can do it at this meeting by consensus, so that he has the opportunity to continue to start selling his tickets for an event that's only a month and a week away.
Yeah, and as a follow-up, I don't mind there being a broader discussion going forward about the racetrack, okay? I would suggest, quite honestly, that potentially be assigned to a different committee than the Special Studies Committee, to where we can have a little more open communication. I think Public Protection Committee is probably the right place for this, so.
So can we ask for a consensus?
Well, that'd be during council.
No, right here.
No, we'll do it at
Right.
tonight's meeting under,
Okay.
And Steve, I appreciate your concern about this, but if anybody has planned a birthday party, a cookout, I mean, I've had numerous discussions with Mr. Dobson about this, and you wouldn't believe the amount of other things beyond his control, whether it be an ambulance not showing up at the start of the race. He has to delay the start of the race because they didn't show up. They can't race unless an ambulance is on site. There's just so many things. Weather, it starts raining in the middle of your event, what do? You hold on until it quits raining, whatever. There's just so much stuff. He doesn't intentionally delay the races and race past his time. The county fair, a couple of years ago, they were playing music, blaring music at midnight. They didn't plan that. They had rain, they had numerous things. I mean, anybody that has an outdoor cookout deals with that as well. It's just, he doesn't do it intentionally, and I don't feel they need to be fined when we're trying to bring people into the city and draw attention to Jacksonville, Illinois, so.
So, if my understanding is the consensus is the race will go on with no limits for time and no fine if it goes over. Is that the consensus?
I think the consensus is he can run the race
As
till
normal.
completion, and he'll make his best effort to get it done as quick as he can.
And should we choose?
And I would invite the council to revisit that, like maybe Adam, if I do go over, Chief Mefford writes a report, and maybe the council wants to smack me around after the fact, take maybe be done by 10 for a few weeks, whatever. I think I'm still subject to oversight by the council. Maybe we don't have a pre-approved punishment. And I gotta come here and tell you what happened and why, and you decide whether to slap us around, kinda like you do maybe a bar, that does something wrong.
And you're not against revisiting a possible permit or timeline, but right now we need to proceed
No,
so you
no,
can
I
make
have
sure.
no problem
Right.
with that.
Okay.
No problem with that.
We just need to proceed so he can plan his event in April. And that's, I said we
Okay.
proceed as normal.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comment at this time? Seeing no public comment, we will adjourn this workshop session. And I would have everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Somebody has to take notes.
And I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Captain Summers, thanks for being here.
Adams,
Here.
Bartlett,
Here.
Cook,
Here.
Hopkins,
Here.
Lonergan, Odenhill, Scott,
Here.
Wankel, Wormowski, Williams,
Here.
Mayor Ezra.
Here.
City Attorney Beard,
Here.
you have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there a reading of the minutes this evening? Alderman Large Alderman?
I'd make a motion that we approve the minutes as circulated.
And is there a second? Alderman Scott? All those in favor of approving the minutes, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, is there a presentation of petitions?
No petitions.
And we have some communications.
We have one communication. It is on Thursday, April 29th, the request by Ken Dobson for the racetrack to host the NOS Energy Drink World of Outlaw Sprint Cars for the 4th time. It says due to the nature of the series of scheduled holds events in Washington, Arizona, New York, Florida. You've all heard all this before in previous meetings, so I don't want to go through all of it. But he's requesting that the Speedway be given permission to stay open past the 6 o'clock hour on April 29th. April 29th.
why don't we just go ahead and act on it at this point with a motion?
Is there a motion in favor of having this race on April 29th? Alderman Cook, seconded by Alderman Scott. Voice vote. Any discussion on this? Alderman Wormowski.
I guess there's a point of order, so we're having a vote on a correspondence? Is that what this is?
It's, what we're doing is basically what we do when we have a question, can we close a street, or can we do this or do that, that comes to us through a communication. It's the same pattern that we do at that point. Say, is this okay? That's what we're doing here.
Can you name one other time we've done a voice vote or an approval by the council on a communication?
If you give me time, I can give you a number of questions or times like that. Whenever there's a request at one point to
Community park?
conduct the stops downtown for donations, whenever there's been a request to do something at Community Park, we say, anybody have a question? Is that everybody in favor of this? Now, if I want to say a roll call or a voice vote, I don't know. I think we typically take consensus.
We do
But
Fenley
since
Street,
there seems
Fenley
to be
Street every
such-
year.
Yeah, since there seems to be such a dispute about this, I'd suggest we go ahead and do a voice vote on it.
I guess if I could make my comment on this, from the discussion from the workshop, this is, I agree with the race being held, but Mr. Dobson came to the council and he suggested an end time, could be 10:30. He also suggested a fine, and we told him basically he's gonna have the race without a time and without a fine. We're just letting him just,
I think Mr. Dobson, when he said that, changed his mind.
he did, I don't know if he changed his, well, he can speak for
I
himself.
think the
but-
council did.
Yeah,
Okay.
the council doesn't want that. So I just want to make sure that he suggested a fine, he suggested a time, and we said, don't worry about it.
Well, I think, Kenny, you want to change your
Well, again,
call
I
on
do
this?
think the council's correct.
Midnight now?
And potentially, let's, kind of like what you talked about with Chief Mefford earlier, let it happen. He'll, like last week, Chief Mefford said the way he handles it, if something's wrong, he comes out, he investigates it, he makes a decision the following Monday as far as the punishment, and then you guys can decide what to do about it, how I get spanked or what have you. So let's just say the time's 10 o'clock, no particular fine, and if I go past 10, I gotta answer to the council. Fair enough?
Mr. Dobson, I appreciate you being here tonight on that one, so thank you.
All right, voice vote. Everybody in favor of approving the race on April 29th, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nope.
What was that?
Voice vote of no.
Okay, thank you. Any other communications?
No, that's all.
Okay, any claims tonight?
No claims.
Okay, thank you. Mayor's report. Item number 1, appointment of Tiffany Wormowski to the Heritage Cultural Center Board, term to expire January 1st, 2023. Is there a motion for Tiffany? Alderman Adams, second by Alderman Large Oldmeadow. All those in favor of approving Ms. Wormowski of the Heritage Culture Center Board, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? City Attorney's report.
Thank you. First item I have is the second reading of the ordinance amending the liquor code concerning employees' ages, allowing 18-year-olds to serve in a restaurant.
Okay, is there a motion? Alderman Aaron Scott, second by Alderman Bartlett.
Be it ordained that Chapter 3 Alcoholic Beverages, Article 2 Retail Sale, Section H, employees' ages be amended, authorizing any person ages 18, 19, or 20 to take orders in a restaurant.
Any discussion on this?
Nope.
Seeing none, I would ask the clerk to please call a roll on second reading.
Adams,
Yes.
Bartlett,
Yes.
Cook,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Oldnettle, Scott,
Yes.
Walthall,
Yes.
Wormowski. Williams. Motion passes.
Next item is ordinance amending the Jacksonville Municipal Code, the liquor ordinance, authorizing one more license to be issued for Shiraz.
Is there a motion on this? Alderman Scott, second by Alderman Hopkins.
Be it ordained that the Jacksonville Municipal Code, Chapter 3 Alcoholic Beverages be amended, adding one additional restaurant license.
Any discussion? I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes?
O'Donnell. Scott.
Yes.
Wonkel.
Yes.
Wormowski. Williams. Adams.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Before I go on to the third item, just a quick note, we're not going to need an executive session after tonight's meeting. We are still in discussions on that particular labor contract and don't have anything new for you since the last meeting.
Okay.
The third item I have is a resolution approving addendum to memorandum of agreement with the Jacksonville Senior Chaplaincy Care, Inc. regarding cemetery lots.
Is there a motion? Alderman Adams, second by Alderman Scott.
That's a good thing.
Be it resolved that the first addendum to the memorandum of agreement with the Jacksonville Senior Chaplaincy Care regarding cemetery lots at Diamond Grove Cemetery is hereby approved.
Discussion? I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Cook.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes?
O'Donnell. Scott.
Yes.
Wonkel.
Yes.
Wormowski. Williams. Adams.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Motion passes.
That's all I have tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. City clerk's report tonight.
We have one item on the, it's a resolution authorizing the natural gas sales agreement between the city of Jacksonville and Constellation, and that's basically giving the mayor and myself authorization to sign that contract.
Is there a motion? Alderman Bartlett, seconded by Alderman Williams.
Be it resolved that the natural gas sales agreement between the city of Jacksonville and Constellation is hereby approved.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Hopkins.
Yes?
O'Donnell. Scott.
Yes.
Wonkel.
Yes.
Wormowski. Williams. Adams.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Any public comment at this time? Consent agenda items, finance, IT, and personnel. Alderman Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have one item tonight, it's the city treasurer's report for February 28th, 2021.
Thank you. Parks and Lakes, Alderman Largolden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have two items this evening. Resolution authorizing the waiver of advertisement for bids and acceptance of proposal for the replacement of the community park restroom doors. And number two, resolution amending the municipal code, Chapter 18, Park, Section 18.5, regulations for the use of public campgrounds at Lake Jacksonville.
Thank you. Utility, Alderman Wonkel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One item tonight, resolution authorizing payments from the Waterworks Sewerage Project Fund for services rendered improvement projects, and I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second under the consent agenda? Alderman Scott. You've heard the items under the consent agenda tonight. Is there any you wish to pull for further discussion?
No.
Seeing none, I would ask the clerk to please call roll on the consent agenda.
O'Donnell. Scott.
Yes.
Wonkel. Wormowski. Williams. Adams.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes?
Motion passes.
Thank you. Committee reports tonight. Parks and Lakes, Alderman Largolden.
Thank you. Our first item, our only item, tonight is first reading of an ordinance with the emergency clause authorizing execution of lease agreements with the private camping clubs at Lake Jacksonville.
We'll need a motion on the emergency clause. Alderman Largolden, second by Alderman Scott. voice vote? Oh, sorry, yeah, roll call. I would ask the clerk to please call roll on the emergency clause.
Scott?
Yes.
Wankel?
Yes.
Wormowski?
Yes.
Williams? Adams?
Yes.
Bartlett?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Odenell? Motion passes.
Is there a
Second
motion
reading?
for
Motion for
second reading?
second
Alderman
reading?
Hopkins, second by Alderman Cook.
Be it ordained that the lease agreements between the City of Jacksonville and the private camping clubs for the term April 1, 2021 through March 31st, 2022 are hereby approved.
Discussion? I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Let's go this way. Wankel?
Yes.
Wormowski?
Yes.
Williams? Adams?
Yes.
Bartlett?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Odenell? Scott?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Planning and Public Works, Alderman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have one item tonight. It's the first reading of an ordinance amending the Jacksonville Municipal Code, Chapter 6, Buildings and Building Regulations, Article 3, Electrical Codes, Division 2, Permit and Inspection, Section 6-67, Adoption of National Electrical Code, and other standards. And I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Alderman Wankel.
Okay. You ever try to read that? I mean, I actually read that, really. That's just kind of like confusing. I don't know how you make sense out of it, really.
Be it ordained that the Jacksonville Electrical Code be amended with the provisions as recommended by the Inspections Department and the Electrical Commission.
Discussion? I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Adams?
Yes.
Bartlett?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Odenell? Scott?
Yes.
Wankel?
Yes.
Wormowski? And Williams? Motion passes.
Thank you. Is there any old business this evening? Alderman Adams?
Yes, I had previously talked about 2 locations in the community that were needing lit at night, and one of those was the Women's Crisis Center. I have also asked the mayor's office to ask Ameren to connect those facilities. There's one in the alleyway south of the handlebar, and that just needs replaced from the personal light that's already there to an LED. And then whatever Ameren's decision on the best location for night lighting next to the Women's Crisis Center would be perfect.
And that correspondence was sent to Ameren, so appreciate your work on that, Alderman Adams.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr.
Any
Mayor?
other old business?
I
Yes,
have one item in, basically, I just want to thank the council, the city, the police department, Citizens Police Academy, for working with the Kiwanis Pancake and Sausage Day, which was on Monday. Last Monday, we served over, I think I made a note of it, we served 4,453 people through drive-through, and it would not have been possible without really the whole community and everyone with the city helping us out and supporting us on this effort. So I just wanted to say thank you to the council and to all the department heads that helped make that successful. So thank you.
well, we appreciate your work too. It's a hard job. You and Marcy Patterson did a great job being the co-chairs, so thank you for that. Is there an event coming up in May, Alderman Williams? Okay.
City of Jacksonville citywide yard sale. So far, I've got at least one whole page of addresses and everything written down, so, but I've still got a month left to go, and we're gonna get a whole lot more, and there's already a lot of people saying they're gonna come to Jacksonville for this event, so I'm
Very
excited,
good.
I'm excited.
Thanks for doing that, Alderman Williams. I believe the citywide cleanup will be it's usually the second week in June, not that first week, but I'm not looking at the well, I probably should, calendar. Probably June, Les is gonna, probably June 10th, 11th, and 12th. I'm guessing. And that kind of corresponds with what Alderman Williams is trying to do. So
Mine would be the 28th, 29th, and 30th. I would
Awesome.
also go on Sunday.
Thank you for that. Any other new business this evening?
Probably should have been under
Yes.
public comment, but I just want to, anybody knows any young people that would like some summer work? The city is still looking for some applicants for some personal or some part-time work during the summer, some seasonal work. So anybody knows anybody that's looking to run a weed eater for a while, send it my way.
Thank you, and for the live stream, Superintendent Fletcher just said we need some summer employees, folks that, young folks that want to work for the city this summer, and I know probably Mr. Gilbreth, Superintendent Gilbreth is the same boat, and we want to help out our youth, so come by my office or come by the HR office, and we will get you an application, and we'll put some youth to work. Any other new business this evening? Seeing none?
Motion to adjourn?
Alderman Hopkins, second by Alderman Cook. We are adjourned.